April picks up right where March leaves off, with Pluto traveling through Aquarius, Mars entering Cancer. We get a solar eclipse in Aries, and Mercury goes retrograde in Taurus. Let's take a look at all of the events of the month and break down some of the most important ones for all 12 signs. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive readings. If you're new to my channel, welcome. Please subscribe. Leave me a like or a comment. I really appreciate that. And if you'd like to work with me, you can book a reading down below. You can actually get a horoscope subscription to become a member and to get monthly horoscopes that are tailored and are very specific to your natal chart. So the month is, we have a lot of Aries energy in the beginning of the month, basically the first 2/3 of the month with the sun in Aries. The sun comes together with Jupiter on April 11th. There is kind of exciting new beginnings. We have a solar eclipse, dependent on where you are. If you are on the West Coast in the US, it's going to be on the 19th of April. If you're on the East Coast, it's very early on the 20th. Mercury will spend the entire month pretty much in Taurus, entering on April 3rd, going retrograde on the 21st for the next 3 weeks. The sun enters Taurus on the 20th. Mars spends the month in Cancer, right? Like Mars is very, and I'll go chronologically. I just want to give you like a quick summary. Mars spends the month in Cancer. Cancer has this desire to nurture important projects, but struggles asserting oneself, struggles expressing anger. So we really need to be careful with how we go after things, how we express frustration. Pluto enters Aquarius, right? Pluto has entered Aquarius in March on the 23rd. It spends the whole month in Aquarius. It's going to make some tense aspects on April 3rd on the 20th to Mercury and to the sun. And in general, Pluto in Aquarius is likely to raise our collective awareness, our awareness of the social issues, make us heal, make us address the darkness, and kind of, I know for some people, even talking on Instagram, Pluto in Aquarius is a bit scary, right? Because it's a big shift and Pluto tends to dredge up all the darkness. And while astrology is a great tool, I totally subscribe under it, I'm also a big proponent of meditation, right? Like you need to have a lot of different tools in your arsenal. And so I've been a big fan of meditation for it must be 6 years at this point. And I started meditating a few times a week, and now it's a part of my morning ritual. I meditate almost every day, and I kind of, really notice the difference. I see personally when I skip the meditation, I tend to be more irritable, more snappy, more short. And then when I do meditate, I'm a lot more calm and happy and able to be a better friend or a better partner. And that's why I'm so excited to partner with Aura on this video, a new mindfulness and sleep app that has won the Best of Apple award and is actually used by over 7 million people. I've used a few apps on my meditation journey. As a Gemini moon, I tend to get bored really quickly sometimes. But with Aura, they offer so much variety and so much personalization, and it knew exactly which guides I'd like and the tracks that work best for me. It's an all-in-one app for your well-being and sleep, and it has thousands of meditations, stories, sounds, and so much more like CBT, life coaching, breath work, and spirituality. Aura's content is created by hundreds of expert coaches and therapists around the world, and it has been the only app that worked to help calm down my sense of overwhelm, and it can introduce you to lots and lots of different techniques. One of my recent favorites is their 3-day gratitude series by Stephanie Lewis. You get a unique opportunity right now. You can get started for free on Aura's website using my special link in the description. The first 500 people get free trial and exclusive 25% off. Do not hesitate to sign up. Do it now. It's going to go really quickly. And truly, in these crazy times when we are concerned about so many things and the future looks so unpredictable and we spend hours and hours scrolling and on our phones, how wonderful it is to have an app that provides mindfulness and spiritual guidance at your fingertips. So download Aura, give it a try, and let me know what you think. So let's talk about April, right? I'm gonna do a quick rundown of the astrology of the month, and then we'll take a look at all 12 signs. April 3rd, Mercury enters Taurus and immediately squares Pluto. Mercury will be in Taurus until June 11th. So we get 2 months of Mercury in Taurus. That happens when Mercury goes retrograde. In Taurus, our thinking tends to be slower, more steady. We may appreciate kind of creative visual type of learning. We may be more interested in building structures of our lives, but the square to Pluto is interesting, right? We get 2 squares to Pluto, one from Mercury on the 3rd and another square from the Sun on the 20th. And this is really the tension between Taurus is steady, Taurus is personal, Taurus has this desire for like stability and groundedness and unity, kind of like family unit, beautiful clothes, warm hugs, right? Like it can be very comfortable, or like stick to comfortable ways of doing things. And the square to Pluto, these 2 squares we get on the 3rd and the 20th, they really will show us how our comfortable ways or old beliefs, old like worn in pants and thoughts can actually be uncomfortable and unhealthy for us. So here we're kind of like potentially, square to Pluto can bring up scandals, drama, power struggles, secrets, conflicts that shake you up. But Pluto always has the power to heal, to transform, to move you to the next level. So pay attention April 3rd, April 20th, especially. Because like I said, there may be some conversations that are uncomfortable, but are also healing. April 5th is lovely Mercury sextiles Saturn, really good day to catch up on your paperwork. Any classes, studies, education should go well. Do research, do long-term planning, wonderful day for that. We have a full moon in Libra on April 6th. Or April 5th, if you are on the West Coast, it's going to oppose Chiron and Jupiter. Full moon in Libra is always like a checking point in the year in which we are examining relationships. We have so much action in Aries, right? And there is all this focus on our personal gains, our personal growth, our personal insights and ideas. And with the full moon in Libra, we are called to step out of this me mentality that we have been in for a while and look at our relationships and look at how, in a sense, how do our relationships align with our personal goals, right? Is there a balance? Is there a fairness? Have we overdone our personal projects too much that we've forgotten about our relationships? Or have we focused on our relationships so much that we've forgotten about ourselves? So we're closing a chapter here, a relational chapter that got started with a new moon in Libra on September 25th, and are finding, because of the involvement of Chiron, we're finding healing in relationships and we're finding a better balance. April 7th is a beautiful day as Venus sextiles Neptune, inspired creativity, wonderful for writing, wonderful for filming, dressing up, shopping. Relationships will feel better, more soulful, more connected. And it's a great time to just relax or focus on making art and beauty. On April 8th, Mercury sextiles Mars. This is one of the 2 Mercury sextile Mars. We'll get another Mercury sextile Mars on April 23rd because Mercury goes retrograde, aspects Mars again. Mercury in a harmonious aspect to Mars is wonderful for speaking up with courage. With, Mercury in Taurus, Mars in Cancer, you may be speaking up with family, you may be speaking up on an issue that feels close to heart, you may be addressing some kind of important problem. It's a great transit. Both the 8th and the 23rd is lovely for doing like physical labor, problem solving, doing business dealings and negotiations, like it's kind of lovely for connecting your courage and your action with your mind. We always need the mind to take action, right? But here you can definitely see that those two are aligned. April 11th is a busy day, quite exciting day. Venus goes into Gemini until May 7th. Venus in Gemini is drawn to the mind, attracted to puzzles, games, partners who can talk quickly, have lots of interests. We have lots of interests, so we're sort of attracted to people representing. But the shadow side of Venus in Gemini is, of course, being fickle, being indecisive, being hard to pin down. So make sure you're not changing your mind too much to a point that you're messing with other people. Venus also trines Pluto almost immediately, so this could be lovely for passion, inspiration, kind of the volume of Venusian things goes up. So desire for art, beauty, love are stronger. And it can be an inception, I think, of like a new relationship, a new creative project. And we get Jupiter Cazimi on the same day, April 11th. Jupiter Cazimi is the Sun conjunct Jupiter, and it's the start of a new cycle of growth. Jupiter wants to grow. Jupiter is in Aries, ruled by Mars and Cancer. So once again, it's something like personal, something close to heart that you're working on, something insular and important, right? But Sun conjoining Jupiter is all about pursuing new things in life, and they could be connected to education, travel, philosophy, religion. Somehow your attitude is changing and the world around you is going to follow. And it's a start of a really long cycle that lasts about a year, of a new time for growth. April 14th has tense energy as Venus squares Saturn. Venus squares Saturn is always a time of pressures and challenges and tests in your romantic relationships. They can be due to separation, fears, anxieties, like questions of the future, right? Saturn always wants to be like, is this long lasting? Is this worthy of my time and attention and energy? And so here you are having to potentially make some tough decisions, dealing with those stresses. It could be a great time to work on something in solitude, or a good time to address those challenging topics, because through Saturnian tests, we grow stronger and we come out and we look shiny like a diamond. April 20th is a big day, starts with a solar eclipse in Aries. We had a new moon in Aries on March 21st. This is a solar eclipse in Aries, new moon on steroids. Big new beginnings, right? It's like new start, something happening in your life, like quickly. I'm bad. I don't know how to snap my fingers. I need to sign up for classes, but like something that comes into your, is there a snap your fingers classes? Anyways, but like it's a cardinal fire, it's a spark. So something can come into your life very quickly, very suddenly, like unexpected new beginnings. So pay attention. How did your new moon in Aries go on March 21st? Did something exciting happen? Let me know. The Sun enters Taurus and squares Pluto almost immediately. Take a look back, or just keep in mind that April 3rd and April 20th have a similar vibe, because we had Mercury square Pluto. Here we get the Sun square Pluto. Sun in Taurus, similar vibes, steady, traditional, things that are comfortable, things that we value and want to hold on closely. Squaring Pluto in Aquarius, saying no, you can no longer hold on to things that felt familiar, because something about them is not right? Like Pluto can literally show you, like, there's this apple, and imagine the apple is your relationship, your place of living, your job, and it looks shining and it looks beautiful, but then Pluto comes in and it cuts the apple in half, and it shows you that the core is messed up and, rotten. So this could definitely be the time. And on a global scale, on a collective level, this could be the time that we hear something about the government, or we find out something about the collective. There's some drama, some secrets, some shadows that make us see things for what they are, but it could also have to do with ideals, with relationships, with pursuits that we have, because the sun represents ideals and Pluto represents shadows. So very much like, what are the shadows of your ideals? Mercury goes retrograde on April 21st until May 14th. We are rethinking the topics of the Taurus house in our charts, and I'll talk about that when I get to the horoscopes. April 23rd, Mercury sextiles Mars, similar vibes to April 8th. Great for manual labor, like I said, intellectual projects, showing courage, taking action. Of course, Mercury is retrograde, so maybe something you have done around April 8th, you are now redoing or taking it back and examining it closer. April 25th, the sun sextiles Saturn, a lovely time to work hard, a lovely time to be a leader, to ask an authority figure for help, to show up as an elder or ask elders for help. You enjoy working hard, you enjoy meeting your goals, and as a result, recognition for your work can also come. And finally, the final big transit occurs on April 29th as Mars sextiles Uranus. And Mars is the warrior, Uranus is the rebel, Prometheus, courageous, experimentator. Experimentator? I don't know why words are escaping. Maybe it's because I'm lighting up my sunlight in a jar and not mercury candle. Next time I should do both. But this transit on April 29th with Mars sextiling Uranus is always like breakthroughs or breakdowns. Here they are in a harmonious aspect, so it feels more like breakthroughs. Breakthroughs, experimentation, excitement, progress. So it could be on a personal level, it could be in a job, it could be in your relationships. So let's take a look at the 12 rising signs and talk about some of the main events. I'm not going to cover every single one, because if I do, we'll be here for like 18 hours, and I don't think I have the ability to talk for that long. I like to talk, but not for 18 hours. So if you are an Aries rising, the sun, there's still a lot of action in your first house. The sun is in your first house until the 20th, giving you more energy, giving you more courage. It conjoins Jupiter on the 11th. Did I say it right? So the sun in Aries until 20th of April, conjoins Jupiter on the 11th. Sun conjunct Jupiter around 11th, give it a couple of days before, a couple of days after, is wonderful. It's the time of new beginnings. It's the time of more luck, more opportunity, formation of your personality. You are likely the one who makes those opportunities, but they can also be brought to you. And of course, this kind of like focus on you culminates with the solar eclipse in Aries, your first house, on the night of April 19th, 20th. On the East Coast, it's the 20th. On the West Coast, it's the 19th. And this is part 2. We had a new moon on March 21st. How did it go for you if you are an Aries rising? Share your story. Did you start something new? Did you change your look? Did you change your personality? Did you start a new job? It's very much all about you. And this solar eclipse can bring sudden transformations and sudden new beginnings that change your look, that have to do with your health, that have to do with your appearance in the world and the role that you play in the collective. Venus is in your second house of money and values until April 11th. So financially, you may be doing really well. You may be getting gifts, bonuses, spending more money. What's interesting is Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd, and Mercury will stay here until June 11th. It will be retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. So additionally, there's also a lot of focus on your finances and values as you are going through this period of inner rebirth and growth. You're also considering, do your finances, do your resources, does your job kind of match up, I think, with what you're going through. So Mercury being retrograde between April 21st and May 14th is very much the time to rethink your financial matters and rethink your values. Maybe be careful around this time. Like, it's Mercury retrograde in the house of money is always interesting because it's like money comes to you, let's say between the 3rd and the 21st, and then Mercury goes retrograde and you have to spend this money on something. So it's not necessarily, especially the retrograde period between the 21st of April and May 14th, not a good time to spend money recklessly, but could be a lovely time to like pay off any debts you have, any outstanding payments. And also just think of how does your source of income reflect your values. Mars is in Cancer all months, so there's more action in your home. You may be nesting, you may be doing home renovation projects, but also likely feeling moody or fighting with family. So be mindful of that. Pluto is spending the whole month in Aquarius, your 11th house, squaring Mercury. So, and the Sun in your 2nd house. So April 3rd and April 20th can be tense. There is tension between your house of friendships and plans for the future and the house of money and values. So conflicts with friends surrounding money or values is a likely example of that. Just a sense of maybe your values going through a transformation, or your friendships needing to reflect that, right? Like maybe your dreams are transforming, because it is, like I said, it is all about you, right? Like this might be the month, for example, where you decide to become a designer and you realize that your friends who don't approve of that, like, or maybe, yeah, like maybe your friends don't approve of that because they think that you have a steady job. Why would you throw it out the window? And you're sort of looking at, so that's what I want to be doing. How can I reach it? And do I have enough resources? So I feel like that could be an activation of all of those houses at once. Pluto and Aquarius could also have you getting more involved with the collective, volunteering, giving back, doing some kind of charity work. There's a full moon in Libra, your 7th house, on April 6th, bringing changes, endings, and transformations to your relationships. So maybe you are letting go of a connection if it no longer serves you. You're moving it to the next level if you are in a relationship that has been going strong. Maybe it's the time to make a commitment, to announce that you are a couple to the people in your life. It could also be an important changing point in a business partnership or in your business in general. And take a look at what got started in your life in late September, around the time of the new moon in Libra. On April 11th, Venus enters Gemini, and she will be in Gemini until May 7th. Gemini is your 3rd house, so Venus in the 3rd is lovely for improving your relationships with siblings, spending more time out and about in the neighborhood, writing, right? There's kind of Venus also aspect Pluto in the 11th, so maybe you're studying, starting a blog, starting a writing project. It's an interesting, like, Venus in the 3rd house gives you more skills, more interests, more connection, more charm. And the trine to Pluto makes me wonder that you're thinking of how can these skills be applied to your future goals, and like how can they help you reach your dreams. And finally, on April 14th, we have a bit of a complicated transit as Venus in the 3rd squares Saturn in the 12th. It can bring tough conversations, needing to address certain self-sabotage issues. Maybe there's some problems with siblings. Maybe a sibling has some kind of escapist tendency, self-defeating tendency, and you may be having like deep realizations on how you are perhaps like enabling them, or how your relationship can be improved. And, you know, I mentioned the solar eclipse on the 20th and Mercury going retrograde on the 21st. So those are important dates for Aries risings. For Taurus rising, the most of the month, the first 2/3 of the month, we have a lot of action in Aries, with the sun in Aries, your 12th house, until April 20th. The sun in Aries in the 12th house is both really good, or it may encourage you to take care of your mental health, to take a step back, to focus on yourself. It can also be very important for realigning with your goals and figuring out how you can be a healer. Two important dates in this Aries cycle are April 11th, as the sun conjoins Jupiter. It can bring insights and opportunities connected to spirituality, connected to foreign lands and mental health, birth of something new in that sector. Maybe it's a breakthrough in therapy, maybe it's a new beginning when it comes to your career as a yoga instructor. So it can definitely be an exciting time in that regard. And then the second date that is also really big is April 19th into 20th. If you are on the West Coast, it's the 19th. If you are on the East Coast or in Europe, it's April 20th. We get a solar eclipse in Aries. And we had a new moon in Aries on March 21st. Let me know how it went for you. But the solar eclipse on the 20th is part 2. Like I said, take a look at that new moon on the 21st, because here we have new beginnings, still in that same sector of spirituality, mental health, healing. So, and the solar eclipse would be continuation of that, like a bigger expression of that. Solar eclipse, we call solar eclipses like a new moon on steroids. So around April 20th, you may experience like a sudden spark of new beginnings. And like I said, they can be like breakthroughs in your mental health, starting a new spiritual practice, going away, traveling, because 12th house is like foreign places, and are taking on the role of a healer, becoming a healer, giving back. And like I said, I feel like I'm circumventing the same kind of thing. But let me know how the new moon on the 21st went for you. And this way you can sort of know what the solar eclipse would be about. Venus is in Taurus, your first house, until April 11th. This is lovely. You are more charming. You know, Venus has already been in Taurus for a while, so it kind of gives you more magnetic energy, more power to attract. Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd. And Mercury stays in Taurus for 2 months because it goes retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. So Mercury being retrograde in your first house later in the month could definitely be the time in which you are rethinking your look. Mercury retrograde in the first house is very much like, is my skincare up to date? Do I like my hair? Do I like my style? Do I like my clothes? So, you know, you are going through a lot of changes as a Taurus rising, with Uranus being in your first house and all of these spiritual growth and transformations in your 12th house. And so Mercury being retrograde in your first could be the time to upgrade your look, your wardrobe. It can also be the time where you are looking at how you show up in the world and how you interact with other people, and perhaps trying to figure out a way to be more visible or be more aligned with who you are at your core. Mars spends the month in your third house, so your schedule is potentially busy. You may be spending more time in your local neighborhood, interacting with siblings, taking more short trips, writing. You're likely to have more ideas. Taking more exams is a possibility too. But with Mars in Cancer, we tend to be more passive aggressive. We struggle to express frustration. So look for healthy ways like exercise, sex, etc. You know, manual labor, working in the garden to express your energy, and try to not hide your feelings. Pluto spends most of the month in Aquarius, not most of the month, the whole month of April. It spends in Aquarius, your 10th house. And there will be 2 tense dates on April 3rd and April 20th, as first Mercury and then the Sun square Pluto. Pluto in the 10th house raises the volume of your ambition. It makes you more professionally oriented, more like hungry for power. But there's also likely some tension between the way you express yourself and, like, you know, as a Taurus rising, you are Venus ruled, you're very pleasant, you're very kind of charming and good at getting along with others. So there's tensions between your old way of asserting yourself and your new dreams and plans for the future. And I need to find like a really good balance between those. We have a full moon in Libra, your house of health, work, and service on April 6th, bringing changes to those topics. Take a look at what got started in your life in late September. You can definitely experience maybe a completion of a health issue. Maybe you started exercising regularly and you now see great results. Maybe you started studying to be like a yoga instructor and now you complete that program. And professional changes are also likely. Like if you've been working on a long-term project, this full moon can be the time of endings when it comes to that. April 11th, Venus enters Gemini, your second house. Venus will be in Gemini until May 7th. And you are more focused on making money creatively, more focused on enjoying how you make and spend money. Venus trines Pluto in your 10th house, and like kind of April 11th could also be a time of bonuses and, you know, like recognition or some kind of confirmation of being on the right path, like approval, acknowledgement, etc. And April 11th is an important day as well. We have Venus in the second house squaring Saturn in the 11th. This would be a time of tests. There might be tests in your friendships because Saturn is in your house of friendships, and some kind of tensions, like issues when it comes to values, issues when it comes to the view of the future, as well as there might be more tensions connected to your dreams. Venus in the second house wants to have fun, to spend on whatever she wants, but Saturn in the 11th might say, like, we have to be more mindful, we have to be more thoughtful, we have to be more careful so that we have enough resources to get us where we're trying to go. So those are the most important things in April for Taurus risings. If you are a Gemini rising, the sun spends 2/3 of the month. In the beginning of the month, the sun is in Aries until April 20th. And it conjoins Jupiter on April 11th, and we get a solar eclipse on April 20th if you are on the East Coast and Europe and the rest of the world, and 19th if you are on the West Coast or like in the Central America. So all of this action in the 11th house is about your friendships, it's about your network, it's about your role in the collective and your message, right? In the 11th, we want to belong, we want to share, we want to connect with other people. So you are socializing, you're networking. April 11th, the conjunction with Jupiter can be an exciting inception, opportunity coming to you to collaborate with a friend, or start a big project that reaches a lot of people, like publish your work, start a blog, start a YouTube channel. And the solar eclipse on April 20th is a big deal. Solar eclipses tend to be big karmic crossroads and changes and opportunities. So we did have a new moon on March 21st in Aries. Let me know how it went for you. Did it present any new exciting opportunities, introduce you to new people, offered you a chance to present your work? Because the solar eclipse will be a big bang. It will be like a sudden window of opportunity, new beginnings when it comes to social media, when it comes to groups, being a leader, working with others, being kind of taking on a different role within a collective. So take a look back at March 21st. Let me know how it went for you. And you can estimate or guesstimate how this solar eclipse is going to affect you. Venus stays in Taurus, your 12th house, until April 11th. Venus in Taurus is very kind of sensual and, you know, likes comfort. And in the 12th house, maybe you're spending more time in solitude, reconnecting with yourself, enjoying solo walks, or just kind of taking a mental health break, treating yourself could be a great opportunity to do that. Mercury enters Taurus, your 12th house, on April 3rd. Will stay here for 2 months and go retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. So Mercury in the 12th house is the time to examine your blind spot. And the manifestation of blind spot is like twofold. It's always either things that you do that are destructive. Like, is it staying on your phone too long? Is it being critical of yourself? Is it eating late at night and then blaming yourself, right? So Mercury in the 12th house and Mercury going retrograde on April 21st could be very much about, take a look at how you treat yourself. Take a look at how you talk to yourself. It could be the time of insights in therapy and kind of, deeper self-understanding. And the second manifestation of Mercury in the 12th house is the gifts and the skills and the talents you have that you are pushing down. And, like 12th house is the place of healers. It's the place of people who work with those misfortunate, lonely, isolated, misunderstood. So Mercury in the 12th house could also be, and the time of Mercury retrograde could be the time to examine those gifts you have that you are not presenting to the world, and maybe think of how you can share them, how you can be more of a friend to yourself, and how can you bring your gifts to others. Mars is in your 2nd house all months, bringing a lot of focus to finances. Maybe you're figuring out how to have a better balance between your spendings and the money that you have coming in. You may be spending more emotionally because Cancer is emotionally ruled sign, so kind of impulsive emotional spending is something to keep in mind. Watch out for like conflicts around money, being more like passive aggressive. Pluto spends the month in your 9th house, reshaping your views so that you can express yourself more as a teacher. See, more kind of alignment between like teaching, healing. There's going to be a square to Mercury, from Mercury to Pluto on April 3rd, and the square from the Sun to Pluto on April 20th. And those 2 days can be tough, and they can bring up some drama that has to do with education, travel, publishing, legal matters. And once again, because they connect to the 12th house, I think like once again, it's your time to examine your outdated beliefs, to examine your outdated habits, maybe it's a desire for control, maybe it's a negative self-talk, maybe it's a bad habit that you feel like is ruining your life. And as you're examining those, you can find more freedom, right? Because I think ultimately Pluto in the 9th house would want you to find better self-expression and find more power in your views and more power in your role in the world. We have a full moon in Libra, your 5th house, on April 6th. Full moon in the 5th house can bring changes, endings, and completion of the creative projects, romantic relationships where you either let a relationship go because you feel like it doesn't fulfill you, doesn't represent who you are, or changes connected to children where your child maybe is going through some kind of important period and maybe they are starting school, right? I'm always, or like graduating school. I'm always like, as not a parent and someone who's not in school, I forget when it's going. I mean, I know that like right now we are April, so school is in season. But it's kind of escapes you when you're not in that world. So expect changes connected to romance, creativity, and children. And take a look at what got started in your life or in the life of your child in late September when we had the new moon in Libra. On April 11th, Venus enters Gemini, your 1st house, and will be there until May 7th. And that's always exciting. Venus in the 1st house is the boost of charm, more kind of charisma, ability to attract. Venus trines Pluto in the 9th house on April 11th as well, bringing good luck and kind of maybe resolution of some problems connected to education, travel, publishing, and legal matters. And the final transit I'm going to mention is April 14th. I talked about April 20th with the solar eclipse and April 21st with Mercury going retrograde earlier in the video. But April 14th, we have Venus in the first squaring Saturn in the 10th. And this is tension between your goals, your dreams, and your professional life. Something in your career, maybe a boss may feel oppressive and can create a sense of frustration, a sense of isolation and being misunderstood. But those tensions are meant to guide you towards the path that is more aligned with you. So this could be a frustrating time, but also the time that gets you more clear on what you want to be doing, right? And maybe you have to make some tough decisions when it comes to your career and your personal life. If you are a Cancer rising, the sun is in Aries, your 10th house of career, until April 20th. I recently got a message on Instagram from a Cancer rising that she's tired of listening about her career, but it is a busy time professionally. And if you're not working, or if you're not like as focused on the career, it can also be all about what you do in the world, right? Like there's a lot of focus on your visibility, on the things that you like doing. So for some people it's career, for other people it could be having more fun, taking more Spanish classes, and kind of having a better work-life balance. But the first 2/3 of the month, there's a lot of focus on your professional sector. The sun conjoins Jupiter on April 11th, exciting, opportune, fortunate day for new beginnings, professionally, personally. It can also have to do with family and relationships, because 10th house looks at the 4th house, and so they are connected. And we get a solar eclipse in Aries, your 10th house, on April 20th if you are on the East Coast, Europe, the rest of the world. And it's going to be April 19th if you are in the mid-America and, anywhere besides Eastern time. So this is part 2 of the Aries action. We had a new moon on March 21st. How did it go for you? Did you get any job opportunities? I know a Cancer rising who got a job, and I know a Cancer rising who was offered a job, but she turned it down. But it's interesting because her midheaven, the second girl's midheaven, is in Pisces. So it's a bit less professionally oriented for her, versus the first girl has midheaven in Aries. So she got like a very exact manifestation, had a job interview, aced it, got the job. So solar eclipse in Aries is part 2 of that. Let me know how it went for you. Let me know how March 21st went. And it could bring major new beginnings when it comes to your career, status, and reputation. Like I said, it doesn't have to be a career oriented, but it's likely to be, right? Like you can experience a new job, you can get a new job, you can get a new offer. It can also have to do with a change in status, like getting engaged, getting married, or a new beginning in what you do in the world. 10th house, what you do in the world, what you're known for. So maybe you're taking up a new class, maybe you're starting to cook, maybe you're going back to school, some kind of exciting change to your visibility. We have Venus in Taurus, your 11th house, until April 11th. Your friendships should be easy, harmonious, beautiful. Maybe you are socializing more, going out more. Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd, and it's going to go retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. Mercury will be in Taurus for 2 months. So your your friendship sector, the place of networks, the place of your role within the collective, and people and groups you associate with will be under introspection, right? Maybe you are rethinking your friendships and looking at some of the connections and people in your life and wondering whether they are aligned, maybe due to the changes that you're making professionally or the changes that you're making in your life. Like if you're getting married or starting classes, a new job, maybe your connections are, naturally will change in the process. And this is a solar eclipse, so it's like a new moon. Oh, sorry. This is Mercury retrograde. This is Mercury retrograde, so it can also be about looking backwards and maybe reconnecting with some friends or giving a friendship another chance. You may hear back from a friend as well. I guess I'm so focused on the solar eclipse that everything is about solar eclipse for me, because it's a big deal. Mars spends the month in Cancer, your first house. It's finally out of your 12th. Mars in Cancer in the first house is a more active period in your life. You have more energy, even though it's in Cancer, and the energy likely to go up and down. But you're taking more action. Maybe you're exercising more. But also watch out for being, more moody or kind of like passive aggressive and struggling to express your feelings directly. Pluto spends the month in your 8th house, and Mercury will square Pluto on the 3rd, and the Sun will square Pluto on the 20th. So these are kind of a lot more tense, April 3rd and April 20th. The square between planets in the 11th and Pluto in the 8th feel like there's something you want to do in life. There's something you're excited about. 11th house is your friendships. 11th house is your group associations. It's your hopes and dreams, but it's squaring Pluto in the 8th, saying that these desires and these things that get you excited are somehow in need of, you need to look at the things you have to transform first. There's some kind of agreement, spoken or unspoken. There's some kind of dependencies you have on other people or other people have on you. There's some kind of debts and financial questions, or just even karmic agreements with other people that you need to look at, you need to examine, you need to let something die in order to be reborn. So it could be a very cathartic time. There's a full moon in Libra, your 4th house, on April 6th. Full moon in the 4th house brings changes, transformations when it comes to your living situation. You may move, you may complete a renovation project. If you've been looking for a home, maybe you find it. If you've been trying to sell a home, maybe you sell it. A parent or a family member can go through an important change in their life. Take a look at what got started in your life in late September, because we had a new moon in Libra at that time. On April 11th, Venus enters Gemini, your 12th house. Will stay there until May 7th. And Venus in the 12th house is a great time to get away with your partner, a great time to, even if you don't have a partner, to just retreat, take a break, spend some time in solitude, engage in some kind of spiritual practice. But yeah, a great time to travel, great time to take care of your mental health. On the negative, with the 12th house, you sometimes past loves may come back into your life. Like a past relationship may knock on your door, and you may need to kind of see whether you want to take it for another round. It's interesting because with Mercury being retrograde around the same time, right? It's also like maybe a friendship or someone who used to be like more than a friend comes into your life. But with Venus in the 12th house, like, be mindful of a tendency to like go for people who are not right for you, maybe dwell in the past. At the same time, like I said, on the positive, this could be the time where even if you do meet someone, reconnect with someone from your past and give them another shot, or if you dwell on the past or feel lonely, it could be the time in which you are seeing your negative tendencies a lot better and maybe letting go or transforming them. And April 14th is an interesting day, a bit more tense, can bring relationship tensions as Venus in your 12th house squares Saturn in the 9th house. This feels to me like Venus in the 12th, your need for solitude, your need for rest and peace and escape is at odds with the sector of education, travel, legal matters, publishing. So once again, a need to look at the things you have in your life that are blocking you or some kind of, like it could also be the time to revisit legal agreements you have with other people or educational matters, and maybe shuffle them around, rearrange them so that you have a better flow in your life and more space for rest and ease. And then at the end of the month, April 20th, we have a solar eclipse in Aries, your 10th house. I spoke about that in the beginning, and Mercury goes retrograde on the 21st. For Leo risings, the sun stays in Aries until April 20th. And we have the sun conjoining Jupiter on April 11th. And we have the solar eclipse in Aries on April 20th or April 19th if you are in the western side of the US, or the rest of the US. Basically, it's the 20th for the East Coast and east from New York. The night of 19th, 20th. So the sun in your 9th house draws a lot of attention to your beliefs, to your philosophies, to your guiding principles and morals in life. And maybe you are looking at learning something new. Maybe you are asking deep questions. You're trying to figure out how to what kind of things you need to do to get you where you're trying to go. Like 9th house is very much the journey to your dreams, right? So the sun conjoining Jupiter on April 11th can be really fortunate when there is an opportunity to study, travel, publish, present your work. A great time for any kind of legal matters, any legal battles you're in. We have a solar eclipse on the 20th, and solar eclipse is part 2 of the, we had a new moon on March 21st. Now we have a solar eclipse on the 20th. And let me know how the new moon went for you on March 21st. Were there any new beginnings when it comes to your place in the world, when it comes to education, when it comes to traveling? Because this would be part 2, a bigger opportunity, a new kind of chapter in your life. And maybe you get a chance to study, maybe you get a chance to relocate and move and, sign some kind of important contract, or start kind of posting your content somewhere else, or publish your work. Could be an exciting time. Venus is in Taurus, your 10th house, until April 11th, and your professional life is going quite well. Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd, where Mercury will stay until June 11th. Mercury goes retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. And so there's a lot of focus on the professional sector in your chart, or, your status, your reputation, kind of your visibility in life. And as Mercury goes retrograde, you are likely rethinking things. You're likely questioning your job, your place in the world, your relationship with authorities as well, and maybe even looking back, because Mercury goes backwards. Maybe you're looking at an old job, a dream you once had that you put on the shelf. And this could be a great time to be more kind of slow and introspective and reflective with your job, right? Do not push for answers. Do not rush an answer. Instead, take it easy. And do look back. Do ask yourself, why did you get into what you're doing, and what needs to be changed to be different, or like to improve your life. Mars stays in Cancer, your 12th house, the entire month, and you're maybe spending more time working in solitude, kind of finding inspiration in nature, escaping into some things. Watch out that it's not an unhealthy escape. Instead, find an escape in a spiritual practice, in a volunteer work, or travel. Pluto spends the month in your 7th house, and it's gonna get into a square with Mercury and the Sun. So April 3rd and April 20th are tense. Mercury squares Pluto on the 3rd, Sun squares Pluto on the 20th, creating tensions between your professional life and your ambitions and your aspirations and your relationship. And this could show up in a lot of different ways, right? Like you dream about having a job in Paris, but your partner doesn't want that to happen, or your uncertainty about career is affecting your relationship because your partner wants, you to figure things out before you move forward, right? Some kind of tension between where you see yourself in the future and your relationships and business partnerships will need to be addressed. We have a full moon in Libra, your third house, on April 6th, bringing a change and completion to your immediate life, to your relationships with siblings, neighbors, changes to your schedule, completion of a writing project. Take a look at what got started in your life in late September when we had a new moon in Libra, and expect, this could be like completing a paper, completing a script, completing a writing assignment. Maybe you're taking an important exam, graduating from somewhere. Maybe your relationship with a sibling goes through transformation. Even moving is a possibility here, because third house has to do with your immediate environment. Venus enters Gemini, your 11th house, on April 11th. Will stay there until May 7th. Venus in the 11th is lovely for networking, connecting with people, asking them for help, even starting group projects, making new friends. There's more support and more opportunities that come through your connections. So send that email, ask someone if they know someone who knows someone. You never know how it can work out for you. And April 14th is more frustrating. We have Venus squaring Saturn. So Venus in the 11th squares Saturn in the 8th. And this feels like tensions between your plans and dreams for the future and the resources you have available, or the debts that you have, or some kind of connections and karmic obligations that you are working with. So examine the visible things like your finances, examine the less visible things like agreements you have with other people, and think of how you, or what you need to detangle yourself from in order to create a better balance in your life, or in order to get you to where you're trying to go. If you are a Virgo rising, we have a lot of action in your 8th house of debts, taxes, inheritance, karmic agreements, and dependencies. The Sun stays in Aries until April 20th. Sun conjoins Jupiter on April 11th, and we have a solar eclipse in Aries on April 20th. Lots of stuff, right? April 11th could be very significant as an opportunity to pay off a debt, an opportunity to collaborate with someone, maybe a bonus, maybe a chance to invest into something like, get a mortgage, get a loan, anything like that. And similarly, the solar eclipse on April 20th is actually part 2. We had a new moon on March 21st. How did it go for you? Did you experience any new beginnings at that time when it comes to money, collaborations, finances, resources, anything like that, debts and taxes? Because solar eclipse is like a new moon on steroids, and the solar eclipse on April 20th, or if you are on the West Coast, it will be April 19th, can definitely bring new partnerships, new contracts, new agreements, new dependencies. Be careful that you're not getting involved into something that will require too much of you, but at the same time, it could be exciting. It could be like a business partnership, a chance to start your practice if you are a chiropractor. Or a chance to start a podcast, or like kind of join forces with somebody who you find exciting. Venus is in Taurus, your 9th house, until April 11th. There's more joy and ease when it comes to educational pursuits, traveling. Maybe you're meeting someone while traveling. Legal matters should be resolving kind of well and the way you'd like them to. And there's more ease when it comes to your relationships with teachers and mentors. Mercury enters Taurus on April 3rd. Will stay here for 2 months, goes retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. Taurus is your 9th house. Mercury retrograde and then in your 9th house is very much about your beliefs and ideals. So you might be looking at kind of your guiding principles and the things you tell yourself or the things you have inherited from your family, right? Certain like beliefs that maybe are outdated, maybe they need to be examined and released. There might also be matters connected to education, travel, writing and publishing that you need to examine and redo. An example would be if you are a writer and you are looking at the book that you, or a manuscript that you've been working on, maybe needing to make adjustments to it. Mars, not also like the retrograde time between April 21st and May 14th is not the greatest time to travel. And if you're traveling, make sure you're double checking. Of course, don't put your life on hold. It's not about that. It might actually be enjoyable for you to travel, but double check everything. Mars spends the month in Cancer, your 11th house, and there's more action when it comes to meeting friends, working with friends, leading people, fighting for a cause or fighting for people who are vulnerable, but also potentially more conflicts with friends. So do your best to express your feelings in a direct yet caring way. Pluto is in Aquarius for the month, your 6th house. So you're transforming something in your everyday life, something connected to your diet and exercise routine. Mercury in the 9th will square Pluto on April 3rd, and the Sun in the 9th will square Pluto on April 20th. So these two dates can be tough and can bring tensions between your desire to travel, desire to study, desire to expand, and the everyday life, everyday matters, work relationships, work matters that are kind of mundane yet necessary, but need to be. So you need to take care of those matters first before you can travel and expand and take on new things in your life. We have a full moon in Libra on April 6th. Libra is your 2nd house. We did have a new moon in Libra in late September. So take a look back. You may have started some kind of new project, a new job, gotten a raise or asked for a raise, started a savings account, made a big investment. So this full moon brings completion to those topics that got started around that time. So maybe you get a raise you asked for, maybe you make the purchase that you've been saving for, maybe you decide to let go of a job that you got recently that doesn't align with your values. It could also be like full moon in the 2nd house could also be a more spiritual change and a change to the things that matter to you. On April 11th, Venus enters Gemini, your 10th house. Venus will stay in Gemini between April 11th and May 7th. And this is a beautiful time professionally. You're likely to feel more inspired. You may produce more work. You may do more creative kind of work. Your relationships with colleagues should improve and things kind of ease up. And it's a really good period to ask for recognition and ask for what you want. And another date I want to mention is April 14th, when we have Venus in the 10th house squaring Saturn in the 7th. And this could bring tensions between your career or your personal ambitions and your relationship or your business partnership. Maybe you are trying to accomplish something, but people you're working with are not on the same page. And so you need to make some tough decisions, as well as tensions between what you're going for professionally and what your partner wants to do in life can also become more obvious and need to be examined. And this is it for Virgo rising. Now let's talk about Libra risings. So if you are a Libra rising, there is a lot of action in your house of relationships and business partnerships, or just business in general, between the start of the month and April 20th as the sun travels through Aries. Pay special attention to April 11th as the sun conjoins Jupiter. This could be exciting, opportune time to start something new, to present a business idea, to announce a project, to move a relationship to the next level, as well as there's a big deal, a big solar eclipse we're getting on the night of April 19th into 20th. And the new moon solar eclipse in the 7th house is part 2. We had a new moon on March 21st. What was happening in your relationships and partnerships at that time? Let me know in the comments below. But the solar eclipse is like a new moon on steroids. And being in Aries, it's the cardinal first sign. So the new beginnings can come suddenly and hit you on your head. You wouldn't know where it came from, right? So expect exciting inceptions, exciting developments when it comes to your love life, when it comes to your marriage, when it comes to your partner's life. It can also affect them. It could mean that something is changing and developing really quickly in their life. And business, right? Yeah, like business opportunities are also quite likely. Some kind of new offer you get, new collaboration you start. Venus is in Taurus, your 8th house, until April 11th. Better kind of access to other people's resources. Your partner might be doing better financially. You may be gaining through other people and kind of enjoying dealing with financial matters, paying off debts, getting some kind of better rates on paying off debts. For example, I'm a Libra rising, and I think Venus being in my 8th house gave me an opportunity to get my eyes checked for free. So that was like first time in my life in the US, I think, when that happened. Or in general, I don't think I ever got my eyesight checked for free. It was, of course, like a complementary part of the other things, but it was for free. So I thank Venus in the 8th house. And also, like, 8th house is the time of like working with esoteric things, like 8th house shows kind of hidden things. So I created a couple more candle batches. One of them I'm in love with. I love both. I love all of my candles, right? Like I love all of my children equally. But one of them was created with exalted sun in Aries, exalted moon in Taurus, conjunct Venus and rulership in Taurus. It's called Moonlit Triad? What am I calling it? Trinity. I'm like Trinity, Trilogy, Triad, Moonlit Trinity. And it's available for pre-order on my website if you'd like to get yours. But, it's like a very powerful candle for creativity, for romance, for love, for magic. But, I digress. So Venus in the 8th, lovely for collaborations, lovely for getting access to resources of other people. Mercury enters Taurus, your 8th house, on April 3rd, stays there for 2 months, goes retrograde on April 21st until May 14th. Mercury retrograding in your 8th house is the time to examine your dynamics with other people, agreements you have, resources you give them, resources they give you, any debts you have. Like Mercury retrograde can definitely be the time to look at your financial kind of relationships, to look at your contracts and agreements you have with other people, even dynamics in your relationship. Like, the very simple example is like, are you paying for everything and your partner is not? Or are they paying for everything and you're just kind of chilling? So this could be a lovely opportunity to hash things out, to talk things out, to bring forth better dynamics and take care of any outstanding financial issues you may have. Mars is staying in Cancer, your 10th house, the entire month, encouraging more professional action, encouraging you to pursue projects that are personal and important to you. Maybe you are giving back somehow. Maybe you are helping vulnerable people. Mars in Cancer likes to do that. Watch out for being passive aggressive and listen to your energy levels. If they go up and down, don't force yourself. Pluto spends the month in your 5th house. It will be in a square. Mercury will square Pluto on April 3rd, and then the Sun will square Pluto on the 20th. So Mercury and the Sun in the 8th house squaring Pluto in the 5th feels like there is some kind of tension and a need to clear the air between maybe you and your romantic partner. Perhaps, like, I mentioned before, your views on money are different. Even you may run into a conflict connected to children, where you and your partner have like a different view on making investments into your child's future or raising children. You may also need to have uncomfortable conversations and address some fears connected to depending on other people, or fears connected to, you know, sharing your resources, or kind of relying on other people could be very significant as well. But yeah, like, be mindful and be ready to talk about some kind of misalignment of values at this time. We have a full moon in Libra, your first house, on April 6th. Full moon in the first house brings changes, completion of personal projects, maybe changes to your look, changes to your diet and health, something that likely got started about 6 months ago in late September, when we had a new moon in Libra. So you can expect to maybe transform your appearance, maybe a project you've been working on for 6 months finally comes to fruition. And it can also be like a time of like personal rebranding, right? Or your business rebranding. A couple more important transits to mention is April 11th, when Venus enters Gemini, your 9th house. Venus will stay here until May 7th. Venus in the 9th house is a lovely time to travel, to connect with foreign people. You may be dating someone foreign. You may desire to study new things. The new things you study might be connected to Venus. So art, love, beauty, sexuality, right? Like tantric sex class or something like that. Any legal matters you're in can go well, and it might be a good time to publish your work or present your ideas. And Venus trines Pluto actually on the same day, on April 11th. So perhaps offering a solution to this conflict of values that you've been dealing with. And April 14th, Venus in the 9th will square Saturn in the 6th, creating tension between your desire to expand, your personal beliefs, your plans to travel, and Saturn in the 6th house, your workload, right? Like, you may have to deal with some kind of immediate problem. You may have to face a health issue that may be even connected to somebody in your life, like you're taking care of them, you're serving them, you're giving attention to them, and that may be something that is frustrating you because you would rather travel, or you would rather write, you would rather do something fun. But Saturn says that you have to look at this, you have to examine this topic at hand in order to reach where you want to reach, or go where you're trying to go. First Saturn, then other things. And this is it for Libra risings. For Scorpio rising, the sun stays in Aries, your 6th house, until April 20th. So there's a lot of action connected to work, health, your diet, exercise routines, and kind of problem solving. We have the sun conjoining Jupiter on April 11th, and that could be the time of exciting opportunities related to your everyday life, maybe some kind of professional breakthrough, an exciting new project, a lot of different possibilities, as well as another big thing connected to this house is a solar eclipse in Aries on April 20th. Or if you are in the central time zone, or Western Pacific time zone, this will be the night of April 19th for you. And the solar eclipse in Aries is part 2 of the Aries new beginning story. We had a new moon on March 21st. How did that new moon go for you? Were there any exciting changes and developments? The solar eclipse in Aries is the first sign of the zodiac. It's the cardinal fire. It's the spark, sudden, unique, fast development. So it can bring an exciting new project, an exciting new opportunity, a chance to serve something, a chance to commit to something bigger than yourself that will likely, 6th house is always the place of like hurdles and hard work. So it's likely going to be something that will require a lot of you, but will be for a cause, will be worth it, will feel exciting for you. So let me know how did March 21st went, and you can sort of estimate what this eclipse will be. Of course, with eclipses you can never really know, but it is the sector of work, health, and service. Venus is in your 7th house, blessing relationships until April 11th. Mercury enters your 7th house, Taurus, on April 3rd. Mercury stays there for 2 months, and it will be retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. So with Mercury in the 7th house, there might be more dates. There might be people you're dating who are chatty, talkative, and kind of mercurial. The retrograde between April 21st and May 14th is the time to take a close look at your relationships, at your business agreements, at the contracts in your life. Maybe there's a need to renegotiate. Maybe there's a need to have a talk in a relationship about something that has been bothering you, but you haven't been bringing up. This might also be the time when you are revisiting old issues, kind of having conversations you've already had, and like I said, like re-signing contracts, or maybe dealing with business partners and opportunities to collaborate with people that you have known from the past. And of course, as always, retrograde in the 7th house could mean a past relationship resurfacing. So be mindful and do not necessarily take someone back who was not good for you. Mars spends the month in Cancer, your 9th house, and there's a lot of action connected to travel, education, expansion. There might be more like philosophical debates. There might be more trips, and also potentially like, feeling more like passive aggressive and moody. So be aware of that. Pluto is in your 4th house. Pluto just ingressed into Aquarius on March 23rd. Stays in Aquarius, urging you to examine your family life and your childhood and heal some of the past issues. Pluto will be in Aquarius for 20 years, so it's not like a quick change, right? But there might be something kind of seething, stewing underneath it all. Especially pay attention to April 3rd and April 20th, as Mercury first on the 3rd and then Sun second on April 20th square Pluto. And Mercury and the Sun are in the house of relationships, focusing your attention on your relationship, on your business partnership, on your business in general, and is square to Pluto in the 4th. And this could play out in a lot of different ways, but to sum it up, it's a tension, it's a conflict between relationships, home, family, childhood. And some examples, right? Like maybe you are in a relationship, but you are being needy, or you're being controlling, and Pluto in the 4th is really asking you, like, try to understand what this is about. Like maybe it's not about your partner, maybe it's about your dad not being there. There might also be some kind of tensions in the partnership because of your relationship with the family. Maybe your family is too involved. Maybe your partner is too kind of connected to their family and too reliant on them, and you feel like it's affecting your relationship. So it can play out in a lot of different ways. Regardless, April 3rd and April 20th, be careful and pay attention to what comes up, because that could be important for healing. On April 6th, we have a full moon in Libra, your 12th house. Full moon in the 12th house can bring an important insight and realization about your self-defeating patterns. And because it's Libra, it's likely to do with relationships, right? It's likely a tendency you have that maybe is to not fight with your partner, or not express frustrations, and like keep things calm and peaceful and easy, while in reality maybe you are upset about something. Full moon in the 12th house can also bring changes connected to healing and being a healer. It can bring a sense of a completion, or some kind of transformation in therapy, or transformation in your spiritual practice. Take a look at what got started in your life in late September when we had a new moon in Libra to see what's completing and coming a full circle right now. Venus enters Gemini on April 11th and will stay in Gemini until May 7th. This is your 8th house. And Venus in the 8th is quite lovely for getting access to resources of other people, lovely for paying debts, collaborating with other people. It can also give your partner a boost and give your partner's finances a boost, maybe like, increase their income and help them do better. So that is exciting. And April 14th can be tricky as Venus in the 8th house squares Saturn in the 5th house. So Venus in the 8th square Saturn in the 5th can play out in a few different ways. But it seems like your shared finances or your partner's values are at odds with your values, or they're at odds with your view on children, or your view of creative self-expression, or even like your view of romance, right? Like Venus in the 8th wants to collaborate, wants to heal, transform, have kind of more like intimacy, and maybe even just enjoy kind of relationships, because the 8th house is the place of like other people's resources and still a place of relating. And Saturn in the 5th says that there are certain kind of obligations you have, right? So obligations connected to children, obligations connected to creative projects, obligations connected to your romantic relationship can be at odds with what you would rather spend on, or can be at odds with your partner's views. So like needing to, and it kind of is all aligned, I think, with Mercury about to go retrograde in the 7th house, and needing to rethink relationships. For Sag risings, there's a lot of action in your 5th house of romance, creativity, and children, with the sun being in Aries until April 20th. The sun will conjoin Jupiter on April 11th, a really exciting day, potentially bringing exciting developments to the sector I just mentioned. And we get a solar eclipse in your 5th house on April 20th. So it's all kind of, you are dating, either you are meeting a new person, or you're getting pregnant, or you're taking care of the matters connected to children, even like freezing your eggs, or I don't know what other development could be, talking to your friend about being a sperm donor, whatever it might be. There's some kind of like exciting developments and like a birth of something new. And the solar eclipse on the 20th, which is actually part 2, we had a new moon in your 5th house on March 21st. How did that go? Are you already feeling these things develop right now? Like it's a sudden new beginning. It's a new opportunity that gets introduced to you. So maybe you meet a new person, maybe you get an exciting idea, maybe you get pregnant. Overall, 5th house deals with joy. And the definition of joy is different for each person, right? So if you are a Sag rising, for some of you, the joy might be connected to being a parent. For somebody else, it might be connected to moving to a tropical destination. For another person, it might be about doing more mountain climbing or whatever, like rock climbing, right? So solar eclipse and a lot of focus on your 5th house until April 20th, and it continues for another month, or even past that. Like you are kind of coming to terms or trying to understand what makes you happy. So the solar eclipse is all about that. Venus is in Taurus, your 6th house, until April 11th, and work matters should go well. You may be treating yourself, getting more massages, kind of taking care of your health in a creative way. Mercury goes into Taurus on April 3rd. We'll stay there for 2 months, and we'll go retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. And Mercury being in your 6th house is an invitation to take a look at how you treat yourself, take a look at your diet, your health, your exercise routine. Maybe something needs to be changed. Can also be the time when you are rethinking work matters, and especially kind of nitty-gritty, grimy things of work, because that's what 6th house is. Maybe, you're learning new software at work and having to go over, even having to go over some kind of like documents and legislation that is important to implement changes in your life is likely. Maybe, some kind of work delays and some kind of projects you have to redo is also a possibility. Mars spends the month in your 8th house in Cancer, and you're potentially taking more action when it comes to money. You may be paying off debts. You may be looking to invest money into something that is deeply personal to you. Like if we're talking about children, right? Maybe you're taking action, financial action when it comes to starting like a savings account for your child is a possibility. Watch out for being passive aggressive. Here's the siren for you. Watch out for being passive aggressive and kind of like getting into battles about money without being direct. Instead, like try to talk it out and don't try to manipulate the other person into giving you what you want. Pluto stays in Aquarius, your 3rd house, for the month. There will be more tough dates. On April 3rd, Mercury will square Pluto, and on April 20th, the Sun will square Pluto. And here we have Pluto in Aquarius, which is really urging you to break away from the old, to let like old ideas die, to let old ways of communication die, to let old beliefs kind of transform and be reborn. And as you're going through that, you're also having to deal with perhaps your own resistance. So you have like Mercury and the Sun in the 6th house, and Taurus is very kind of steady and likes things the way they like them. So you're doing a lot of inner work, right? There might also be some kind of tensions and drama connected to work. Maybe issues with colleagues, maybe issues surrounding your schedule that are getting to a point where you realize you can no longer do things the way you are used to doing them, or you can no longer avoid the problem, and it's really urging you to have the conversation about it. We have a full moon in Libra on April 6th. This is a full moon in your 11th house. Completion of a chapter started in late September 2022. And it can bring a transformation of a friendship. Maybe you're letting go of a friendship, or maybe you are feeling like someone you met a few months ago is now becoming a true friend of yours. There might also be changes to the groups you associate with, where somebody is moving away, or maybe you're joining a new group, or you have started like rock climbing and now your network has shuffled around and is very different from what it was 6 months ago. 11th house also deals with hopes and dreams and plans for the future. So you can also see changes there, like a project you started working on, a social media initiative, a podcast you started working on 6 months ago is now blooming and bringing you rewards. Venus enters Gemini, your 7th house, on April 11th. Will stay here until May 7th, and this is a lovely time in your love life. You can experience more ease when it comes to dealing with other people, negotiating, signing contracts. Your partner can be going through a happier time. There might be more opportunities to date and to work with others if you're not interested in dating. And overall, happy vibes, but on April 14th, Venus will square Saturn. So Venus in the 7th, desire to date squaring Saturn in the 4th. Some kind of heaviness, karma, and serious talks connected to home, family, and living situation. So maybe you and your partner need to figure out where you want to live. Maybe you and your partner, maybe your relationship goes through a test because your family is going through a hard time, and your commitment to the relationship gets tested, right? Maybe there is some kind of problem in your partner's home and they move in with you, or you need to make some kind of tough decision when it comes to those matters. As well as Saturn in the 4th house could also be about examining your relationship with family, or examining your childhood and letting something go, or transforming something in order to have a better relationship with your partner. These are some of the main events. Now let's talk about Capricorn rising. If you are a Capricorn rising, the sun is shining light on your 4th house of home and family until April 20th. And you may be figuring out your living situation, looking for a home, applying for a mortgage, renovating, redecorating. April 11th is an exciting day, a sign of new beginnings. As well, on April 11th, the sun conjoins Jupiter, as well as April 20th when we get a solar eclipse in your 4th house. We did have a new moon in your 4th house on March 21st. How did that go in terms of home, family, living situation? Right now, this is another round, another exciting opportunity, new beginning. Solar eclipse is always like sudden, especially in Aries, first sign, spark of fire. Some kind of exciting chance. Maybe you hear of maybe you get an offer on your house, or you find a property that is just perfect for you, or you get a chance to move into or buy the home buy the home that you live in right now. Maybe you are healing, right? Understanding something about yourself. A family member or your family could be going through changes where maybe a sibling moves in with you, or your parents move in with you, or you move out. There's lots and lots of opportunities or possibilities. And let me know which one you think it will be for you in the comments below. Venus is in Taurus, your 5th house, until April 11th. I captured Venus in Taurus and created candles with the moon in Taurus, Venus in Taurus, Sun in Aries. I call it Moonlit Trinity because it's 3 placements that are very powerful in one candle. And it's like the color of this dress almost, and it smells like strawberries and cream. They're still kind of curing and waiting, those candles, but they are available for pre-order. I highly recommend it for every Capricorn rising because I had Capricorn on the ascendant when I was creating this candle. Really lovely and smells just like amazing. And could be great for romantic, creative pursuits, for fertility, for sex and financial abundance as well. So all the things that Capricorn risings like, I know. So Venus is in Taurus, your 5th house, until April 11th. Lovely vibes romantically. Mercury enters Taurus, your 5th house, on April 3rd. Will stay there for 2 months until June 11th. Mercury goes retrograde between April 21st and May 14th, and there will be a chance for you to take a look at how you deal with pleasure and how you deal with fun, and either make adjustments to have more pleasure or make adjustments to maybe let go of some destructive habits, right? If you're overdoing it. You may also be looking at your children and your relationship with your children and your children's lives, and maybe needing to, kind of talk to the teachers or rethink their kindergarten applications, some kind of adjustments connected to that. And romantically, Mercury in the 5th house can bring a past relationship back into your periphery. Be mindful of not necessarily jumping on something that you've already discarded once, and maybe needing to have some tough conversations and get more aligned with your partner on when it comes to a creative project, or when it comes to your child, or when it comes to your idea of joy. It's important to have the same idea, right? If one of you wants to party all the time and another one wants to stay home, it's something you really need to figure out. Mars spends the month in Cancer, your 7th house, highlighting relationships and partnerships. So you may be taking more action to partner up with others. Watch out for being passive aggressive. Mars in Cancer will struggle in general to express frustrations directly, and may try to avoid conflict until tensions build up and explode. Don't let that happen. Pluto spends the month in your 2nd house of money and values. Mercury in the 5th will square Pluto on April 3rd, and the Sun will square Pluto on April 20th. So 3rd and 20th are rough overall. I mean, we do have an eclipse that day too. I'm just adjusting my mic and my sitting position. So the conflicts on the 3rd and the 20th feel like you know, like Mercury and the Sun in the fifth they really want to have fun. They want to spend time with kids. They want to create. They want to have more enjoyment in life. And the square to Pluto in the second house says that you need to transform a financial situation potentially. You need to have maybe a tough conversation connected to values and rethink whether you and your partner, for example, are on the same page, right? Still similar energies. There might be some power struggles connected to money, whether that means you make more money than your partner makes more money than you, and you need to talk about it, or you know, maybe you're relying on someone for resources. Like this can also show up in a lot of different ways, but I think ultimately it's about getting on the same page with people in your life and also looking at your attachments to things and maybe like understanding that the old way of doing things no longer fits the situation. We have a full moon in Libra, your 10th house, on April 6th. This is a completion of a professional chapter. Take a look back at what got started in your life in late September, because maybe you have started a new job, maybe you have asked for a raise, and this could be the time when, you know, you complete a job or you get a new title or you get the raise you asked for. There might also be some kind of professional switch. And also like a need to have, to take a closer look at what you do for a living and examine whether it is aligned with your maybe goals connected to home, family, and living situation, because it's always an opposition, right? Is your work allowing for you to have a better relationship with family? And if not, how can you improve things? On April 11th, Venus enters Gemini. Your 6th house will stay here until May 7th. Bringing blessings and good luck when it comes to your relationship with colleagues, better health, more enjoyment in the everyday life. It's Venus in Gemini, so maybe you're learning something, maybe you're doing laundry and listening to a podcast, so you're educating yourself. There might be more joy and kind of social opportunities to go out with colleagues. Maybe you're dating someone you're working with. And Venus will be trining Pluto in the second house. So this can actually, April 11th could be interesting for solving problems or solving disagreements that you faced connected to money and values. And April 14th feels tricky because we have Venus in the 6th house squaring Saturn in the 3rd, and that could lead to tensions at work, maybe due to miscommunication or some kind of communication difficulty, some kind of scheduling issues, some kind of drama connected to siblings that is taking you out of your flow and need to be addressed. You may have to make some tough decisions, but focus on the long term and think that those decisions will be worth it in the long run. For those with Aquarius as their rising sign, there's a lot of action most of the month, at least the first 2/3. The first 20 days of the month in your 3rd house as the sun transits Aries. And 3rd house has to do with your skills and your passions and your hobbies and your everyday life and schedule and education. So there's a lot of things going on in the 3rd house. We have the sun conjoining Jupiter on April 11th, a sign of beautiful opportunities, exciting new beginnings, good luck. And we have a solar eclipse in Aries on April 20th, or if you are anywhere besides Eastern time zone in the US, it's going to be on the night of the 19th. We already had a new moon in your 3rd house on March 21st. How did that go? This is part 2. It's stronger, it's louder, it's more pronounced. Solar, it's an eclipse, right? Eclipses tend to be kind of big bangs. It's Aries, so it's the spark, it's quick, it's sudden, it may come out of like left field, and it can bring new beginnings, right? Like major new beginnings, like a chance to start a business, a chance to get involved with the community, a chance to become a teacher, chance to write a book, right? Anything that you like to do, things that you are just enjoying filling your time with. Maybe it's Maybe it's sewing, maybe it's knitting, like maybe it's doing yoga. You may, around this time, you may get inspired to take them further, to take them to the next level and to turn them into something that defines you more. But like I said, take a look at March 21st. Let me know how that went. And that could be your clue on what this would be about. Another house that's really active for you this month is Taurus, your 4th house. Venus is there until April 11th, bringing a lot of blessings, a lot of joy, and maybe better relationship with family members, kind of more beauty in the home, more excitement in the home. And Mercury enters your 4th house on April 3rd. Will stay there for 2 months, going retrograde between April 21st and May 14th. Mercury being retrograde in the 4th house is the time when you are looking at your foundations and taking a close look. It might be the time when you're moving, right? You may be rethinking where you live and questioning whether that place makes you happy. Retrograde by nature is the move back. So moving back home, moving back to a place you once were, looking back at childhood and healing something or addressing something is very much a possibility, as well as like needing to revisit some of the old arguments or some of the old conversations in order to bring better relationships with your family. Mars spends the month in Cancer, your 6th house, giving you more power to problem solve, but energy that comes and goes, and perhaps a bit of frustration and like conflict driven energy at work. Watch out for being passive aggressive. Try to talk things out as much as you can. Pluto spends the month in Aquarius, right? Pluto has just entered Aquarius, your 1st house, and you are examining your life, examining your choices, and starting a slow, very, very slow period of transformation. Pay attention to April 3rd and April 20th as we have Mercury in the 4th and then Sun in the 4th squaring Pluto. And this, I think, will be very indicative of what the next 20 years might be about, or like what you'll be working on, because you have Sun and Mercury in the 4th house indicating some kind of familial, family-related energy. And there might be a lot of comfort. There might be a lot of strong patterns that maybe are not so good for you connected to family, but feel familiar, feel homey, feel like, you know, known. And you're kind of needing to examine them. You're maybe realizing that your needs or your goals or your life no longer aligns with your family, and you have to make some tough decisions. You have to make some adjustments. It feels like opportunities to heal and maybe power struggles with family, and a need to introduce new dynamics in your familial relationships. There's a full moon in Libra on April 6th, highlighting your 9th house. Take a look at the new moon in Libra back in late September. This will bring a completion of a chapter connected to education, travel, legal matters, and publishing. So if you started writing something 6 months ago, maybe you are completing that project. If you've been planning a trip, maybe you go on that trip. If you've been studying something, maybe you take an exam. It might also be a time where your views and your beliefs about yourself and your place in the world transform significantly. On April 11th, Venus enters Gemini, your 5th house. Venus will stay here almost a month until May 7th. Venus in the 5th is lovely for dating. There might be more opportunities to date, more creative collaborations, more time and joy and pleasure found in spending time with children, spending time with your romantic partner, just having kind of more fun in life. Not always going to be that easy, right? On April 14th, Venus will square Saturn in the 2nd house, and that feels like tensions connected to money and values that affect your romantic relationship, your creative pursuit, your sense of kind of what you can accomplish, right? If you feel like you don't have enough resources, maybe you start to question whether you're able to reach the goals you have. There might also be disagreements about money and how to raise your kids. do not get discouraged. Do not get too kind of like caught up on the don'ts. Focus on the do's. Focus on the things that you can do. And take small steps, right? Like if Saturn currently in your second house makes your resources feel somewhat restricted and limited, make a plan. Make a step-by-step plan. Saturn loves that, on how to improve it and how to get things better, get things in order. And now let's talk about Pisces rising. If you are Pisces rising, there's a lot of action in your house of money, values, potentially, you know, like starting a business, starting a new job, figuring out how you can make more money, how you can even live your life in more alignment with what you like to do, what you want to do, what you're excited about doing, as the sun travels through Aries. So the sun is in Aries until April 20th. It conjoins Jupiter on the 11th. Could be especially lucky, opportune, and abundant. And we also get a solar eclipse in Aries, your second house, on April 20th or April 19th, dependent on where in the US you are. Like Eastern time zone, 20th, everywhere more east, 20th, west, 19th. We had a new moon in your second house on March 21st, and there's already potentially been financial opportunities, kind of new beginnings. And this is part 2, but it's a bigger, louder, bolder, because it's a solar eclipse. Solar eclipses tend to be like big bangs, big new introductions. So anything connected to, you know, like making a big investment, investing in yourself, starting a new job, starting a new project at work, getting a raise, rethinking your values in order to maybe take on a project or a job that is more in accord with who you are, I think is underneath it all. But then the transitions and the changes will spill into your finances as well. So take advantage of it. I hope every Pisces rising makes lots and lots of money with this solar eclipse. Venus is in Taurus, your third house, until April 11th. And you're enjoying socializing. You are more eloquent in communication. Your relationship with siblings and neighbors are really nice. Maybe you feel inspired to write, take on a new hobby. Mercury enters the same house, even more focus on writing and taking shorter trips and getting more involved with community on April 3rd. Mercury goes retrograde between April 21st and May 14th in this house. So needing to rethink how you communicate, needing to rethink how you go about your day and your schedule, and perhaps get rid of some time wasters is quite likely. If you are a writer, if you are a business owner, you may find yourself around this time redoing some of the work, rewriting, re-editing some of your even potentially past projects. Something like it could be a great time to bring a skill, bring an idea from the dead, but just like revive an idea and maybe take it for another spin. Mars spends the month in Cancer, your fifth house, and you are maybe dating more and spending more time with kids and taking more action when it comes to creative pursuits. Fifth house also is the place of sports. My boyfriend is a Pisces rising, and he actually just hurt his knee. So that's like, I guess be careful, everyone, because Mars in Cancer is Mars in its fall. So you don't want to push yourself too hard when it comes to like sports. And, please send well wishes. I hope he recovers quickly. It literally just happened. Like he told me before I started filming this video. So still kind of trying to figure out how he's doing. So that has been on my mind, but that's not, like, let's get back to the horoscope. And so, yeah, so like Mars in the fifth house could be great for taking action and pursuing creative projects that are close to heart, and like spending time with kids, or, connecting to a child, to connecting to your inner child, and kind of giving more attention to your inner peace and joy. Pluto is in your 12th house all months. There's going to be a square from Mercury to Pluto on April 3rd and from the Sun to Pluto on April 20th. And these two dates are tough. I would flag them as like, be careful of power struggles at that point. And Pluto in the 12th really wants you to address your blind spot. And by blind spots, we always mean either self-destructive tendencies that are affecting your life and impacting your progress, or passions and hobbies and joys that you have, or things that you enjoy doing that you're suffocating and suppressing and not addressing. So use this, like, watch out, look at what comes up. And it feels like, it feels like Mercury and the Sun in the house of communication squaring Pluto in the house of self-defeating things. And maybe you're not immediately aware that what you're doing or what you're saying is distractive to you, but pay attention to the conflicts you're having and questions that are coming up at this time, because maybe Pluto is urging you to address something from the shadows and actually talk about it. There's a full moon in Libra, your 8th house, on April 6th, and this could bring changes connected to your partner's finances, connected to resources your partner is willing to offer you. Maybe you are joining your finances with them, or they're kind of like being really generous with you, or even maybe you're closing something, right? Like full moon in the 8th house could be a completion of a divorce proceeding, or completion of like waiting for an inheritance to kick in, and maybe it does. Could also be the time to pay off your taxes and take care of kind of obligations you have for other people. Venus enters Gemini, your 4th house, on April 11th. Will stay here until May 7th. Venus in the 4th house is encouraging you to spend more time with family. It's kind of a lovely time to beautify your environment. Forgive me, needed a moment. Maybe you are having more get-togethers. Maybe your home becomes more of a fun place. And the final transit I want to plug in is like April 14th. Could be tricky as Venus in the 4th house squares Saturn in your 1st house. There might be some kind of personal responsibilities, personal fears that are affecting your home life and affecting your relationship with family members. And the square to Saturn in the 1st house also feels like there might be some kind of, like, you are potentially embracing this new role in the world. Could be connected to starting a new job. Like I mentioned, on the 20th, there's a solar eclipse in your 2nd house of career, of like money, values, and stepping up and showing up in the world in a different, more responsible, authority type way. And that could put a strain on your familial relationships. That could put a strain on your relationships with your loved ones, and you will be called to navigate it carefully and need to make some tough decisions. And this is it. We've made the circle, woohoo! And we've talked about the horoscopes. I think April is a calmer month, funny enough, even though we have the solar eclipse. It's calmer because there's like March just been a transit after transit after transit, especially big ones. And in April, we get to chill a little bit. And of course, like things kind of speed up with the solar eclipse. And then we were going to get a lunar eclipse in May. But hopefully we get like a happier, more stable months. Of course, it's hard to predict because you never know how it will show up in the collective level. But I wish that each of you has a lovely month. Talk to you soon. Bye.